Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show, episode 491, Mr. Somich.
Travers Week, huzzah!
I can't believe it. Travers Week is already here. It's crazy to think that we're here, but we made it, Mike. We're at Travers Week.
Here we go. Now the question is, what's going to wrong? Get your Saratoga something goes wrong bingo board out, and make sure you get the most wild squares ever, because that's what we've had this meet.
Yeah, I don't want to play this game. This has not been a fun meet at Saratoga. I don't want to play what could go wrong next.
Yeah, everything goes right bingo square is never going to be used. No one will write that one in for this weekend.
No, I mean, anybody who follows horse racing knows that that's just a ridiculous thing to try and predict happening. But yeah, well, listen, we're going to, calling rain.
That's
okay.
Very likely.
Very likely. When does it happen is the question, because you've got, I mean, it's big stakes races all week. We're at Wednesday, you've got the John's Call. Thursday's the Grade 2 Ballston Spa with 10 horses, including 4 from Chad Brown, which, where have they been all meet? The 10 horses, I mean. And then after that, Friday, you've got the Grade 1 Personal Ensign. We have so many Grade 1 races at Saratoga this weekend. We have one on Friday, and it's the Personal Ensign. I mean, there's a lot of those Grade 1 races we could be like, man, that shouldn't be on Saturday's card. But Ness versus Clarier, too? On Friday?
It's kind of crazy that we're getting that many. It's the whole weekend is kind of nuts, because we've got the Charlestown Classic coming up here on the 25th as well. We've got, today and tomorrow. I think there's a combined 12 stakes at Parks. So, there's a ton of stuff with Smarty Jones going tomorrow at Parks. Obviously, a big weekend at Saratoga, like you mentioned. Delmar's got some fun ones as well, like Pat O'Brien is on the 26th. This is just a loaded 2 days. The Travers undercard, one of my favorite undercards. I love the Sword Dancer. I love the Alan Jerkins. We got the Forgo, got the Ballerina. It's just like bang, 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 stakes after stakes. Should be a phenomenal card on Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. I was doing the lineup for this week and what I've got work-wise in. We got tons of stuff at Saratoga. And by the way, a Breeders' Cup winner in for the Dirt Mile. The Cody's Wish is about to win for the second straight year. The Pat O'Brien Stakes, that's at Del Mar this Saturday. So we'll also have a preview for that. But yeah, the 2 Breeders' Cup winning you're in races. Neither of them the really big races. Not the Travers, not the Personal Ensign. That's okay. There's a couple more at Saratoga. The Sword Dancer, I guess, is kind of big, but it's for the turf. With no up to the mark, we're not, nobody thinks America's winning that race this year.
No, the Sword Dancer kind of feels like the years past, where it's like, okay, there's going to be 10 horses in it, and literally any of the 10 could win it, because it's just going to be random and wild. You could kind of gravitate toward the highest price Mike Maker horse. That horse probably have a shot. We're probably going to see Channel Maker back after his win last time out. So we'll see if we get some Channel Maker in our life, and he pulls off the upset. But it feels like that race is ripe for the picking for someone to go gate to wire at 25-1.
Well, we are going to talk a little bit about what happened this past week, but really we're going to take a look forward here. We're going to talk about the top 5 3-year-olds as of right now going into the Travers Week. And Mike and I were thinking, probably 4 of the 5 will have full agreement on. Order might be a little different with how they go, but that 5th one, that 5th spot, that's the one that's it's always a lightning rod too, because Aaron, if you don't know, over at youtube.com/racingdudes, Aaron Halterman does our top 5 3-year-olds video every week. And his top 4 have been pretty much unchanged. The orders change a little bit, but that 5th spot is that's the one that gets everybody mad, Mike. So we'll see if we can get some people mad here. Do you think your fifth ranked 3-year-old right now is going to make people mad?
I don't think it'll make people mad. I just think it's wide open. There's 4 or 5 horses that you could choose to put there if you want to. So this is what we'll do. We're going to, instead of going 5-1, we're going to go 1-5. And as we do each one, you can put your first-ranked horse in the chat as we go over our first-ranked 3-year-old, then the second, then the third, then the fourth. And then when the 5th comes, we get an explosion of responses. I literally think you put 10 horses in the 5th spot for best 3-year-old this year.
Rob says, how about that Kings play yesterday? If you caught the preview I did with JD Fox, I did have the winner. I had the exacta here, so you can check that out. It was a Mark Cassie, Gary Barber exacta, kind of a magic special at Woodbine. But Elysian Field, the filly, got second place. Paramount Prince went gate to wire, just like he'd done in the plate trial, so that was pretty good. Forte's number 1 for now, Nick Feldman says, but we'll see. I added the for now part. We'll see if that happens after this week. But listen, we got a lot to talk about.
Not number 1 on my list. Won't be number 1 on my list after this week.
Oh, Mike's already been drinking, so let's get into it, buddy. Riders up. All right, my first race we'll talk about that does involve a three-year-old filly named Randomized. Goes gate to wire to win the Alabama Stakes. Second straight race that she won gate to wire at Saratoga. Also took the Wilton. Horse has kind of come along a little bit later here. She made one start at 2 at Saratoga, but we didn't see her until the end of March as a 3-year-old, and then she gets the win. It goes straight to the Grade 1 Acorn, and probably a bit too much for her to step up straight off of beating Maidens, but now 2 for 2 at Saratoga and looking pretty strong so far. What do you think about Randomized?
I thought she looked great. I wasn't sure she could get the distance. I thought there's going to be a ton of pace pressure, which didn't really materialize. Like they were step 4 wide going into that first turn, but Chocolate Gelato, who I really think was supposed to be a rabbit, never really rabbited. And so there was never that early pressure there. Defining Purpose was so far wide on the first turn that by the time they got out of the turn, Randomized was your clear leader and got really, really comfortable in the second and third quarter. I thought that made the difference. Wet Paint, closer to the pace than I expected. I thought really restricted her kick coming down the lane. Also don't love that she stayed in the rail. Like that's not where you wanted to be, but I got like hat tip to Joel Rosario here. He came like 5 passes off the rail and said, if you want to beat me, you're passing me inside, which was the right thing to do. We've seen Saez do that a lot at Gulfstream. You want to kind of say, okay, I'm going to go to the 4 path here. As soon as we get out of the turn, you can either go 6 wide or you got to go inside me. And that makes it a lot tougher to get past in those spots. I love that move by Rosario there. I'm going to kind of poo-poo on this a little bit though. It's not a very good field. Like this is like when you compare to in my Facebook messages, you get the memories that pop up. My wife and I took a photo with Songbird 5 years ago to the day of this. Like we had a selfie with Songbird, and that was in Alabama. Like that is a different class of horse that ran in that Alabama. This is one of the weaker groups that I've seen in a while.
I mean, there'll never be a greater Alabama winner in my book than Songbird. She just was absolutely phenomenal. Okay, so maybe you don't have a Nest or a Malathat or even a Clariere in this crop, and that's okay because you had a great betting race. If you were trying to beat Wet Paint, whether it was the distance or you thought maybe she would do better on a wet track, whatever the reason, you got your opportunity and you had, the fact that 9 fillies and none of them were pretty mischievous signed up to try and take on Wet Paint, I was pretty impressed with the field size there. Correct to Fade Julia Shining. I thought that maybe she's just a cut below. Is not. She's a full to Malathat, not looking like Malathat. The one that was most disappointing to me was Taxed. I thought that Taxed was going to sit probably the trip that Wet Paint got, and I thought be a little bit closer and have a chance at Randomized. So she doesn't get the trip. Just a lot of weird things happen in this race, and it's 1.25 miles. So kind of like with the Kentucky Derby, Mike, is this one of those points with data points on a horse's resume that you can just kind of cross off because especially with the fillies, they're never going 1.25 miles again?
No, because I think you have to take this data point seriously from Randomized. We know she can get 1.25 miles. We know she can get 1.125 miles with a pretty decent pace. She, 47 and change to the half, pretty fast for 1.25 miles. So you got to give her credit for that. I think it's a real data point for Randomized. A lot of them underneath, look, Gambling Girl didn't break very well. Her race was pretty much over before the first turn. So she's one that I'm going to draw a line through here. Fireline just kind of got a weird trip. I texted the group right afterward and just said that was a messed up race. There's 5 or 6 trips out of here where you're just like, well, yeah, that horse couldn't have won because of how it went. And Defining Purpose, I thought ran huge here, considering 4 wide on the first turn, never really comfortable, had to press the pace. I thought the 10 ran big here. So I'm going to take something out of it from Randomized, from Defining Purpose. I'm going to give them a little bit more juice next time. A Wet Paint, I think was just too close. To me, that was the biggest issue because it's not like they went 24-49 and Wet Paint was close. They went 23-2, 47-4, and Wet Paint was close. And to me, that really hindered Wet Paint's ability to make a big move down the lane. And like I said, also stuck to the inside. So the top 3, I'm taking something away from here. A lot of these, I think, have an excuses after that, though.
Sabre Tough getting up for 4th, I thought, after being in last, I thought was pretty impressive considering that, you had a gate to wire winner and then Defining Purpose almost went gate to wire in second place there. And I agree with Nick Feldman. I've been saying this since the Ashland Stakes. when she almost got caught by Julia Shining and Punch Bowl. Defining Purpose is a mile and the 16th is probably the best that she can do. I think that she's been being by cross traffic. I think it makes perfect sense. Keep her at a mile. You can win a lot of races like that. Maybe mile and 16th, you get lucky. But Defining Purpose, I thought that she ran well enough to hold on. But also maybe, Mike, that's back to what you were saying. This isn't that great of a group. For her to hold on for third by 8.5 lengths against this group, maybe that's saying a lot.
Oh, yeah, it is. Well, like, here's the thing. Look at who finished after Defining Purpose. So Saber Tough, not good. Tax ran poorly. Gambling Girl didn't break. Sacred Wish ran poorly. Fireline had a bunch of trouble. Julia Shining we don't think is very good. And Chocolate Gelato had no prayer at ever getting the distance. So it's not like you're stacking a bunch of good horses behind it. And it goes back to like, hey, look, it's grade one, but not really. Like, if you like, there are two good horses in this race that'd be randomized in wet paint. Everyone else is kind of a cut below the grade one level in my mind. And yeah, they could jump up and win a grade one against the 3-year-old filly class if they get the right group. But after randomized in wet paint, I don't think this is a very good field.
Well, not the only grade one winning 3-year-old filly on the weekend. We also over at Del Mar on Saturday, much later in the day, the Del Mar Oaks winner Anisette, now 3 for 3 in North American turf for trainer Leonard Powell. A British bred filly kind of came into her own late as a 3-year-old or 2-year-old and then was privately purchased and sent to America. Wins the Del Mar Oaks, and she didn't just win it, Mike. She demolished this. Now, she had a nice trip up the rail, but boy, did she explode late and really just kick clear of everybody.
Yeah, this is a pretty impressive one. She is going to be a contender in the Breeders' Cup, no doubt about it. She ran huge here. You mentioned, okay, she got a perfect trip. That's great, but you know what? She took advantage of that perfect trip. And she made it look like she didn't need a perfect trip, right? Where if she had to go 5 wide, guess what? She still would have won by 1.5 lengths instead of 2 3/4 of a length. So the kick that she had, absolutely devastating there coming home, I thought was very, very impressive. It came from dead last, too, and was within a head of the lead right after that one stretch. That's how much ground she made up around that turn, kick clear from home, never really in doubt. I thought this was a huge race from her. I thought Impact Warrior ran pretty good, running up for third. Be Your Best, I think this was one of her better performances. We talked about both of those horses in the Magic Mike prep for this weekend. I'm like hat tip to both of them. Like, again, not positive how much is behind her here, but the difference is she looks so dominant in this race and came home in sub 12 seconds for that final furlong as well. I thought that was wildly impressive after running on from the back.
11.5. Yeah, that final furlong there, which is just, so you talked about last race where you've seen Saez do it a lot too, and Rosario did it on randomized, where off the turn, then IRAD does this too. Off the turn, they go super wide and say you can either go even wider or up the rail, and most horses won't go up the rail because if they do try and do that, the jockey on the lead horse will shut them down and intimidate him. You do that with Anisette, it's bye-bye, game over. Like, I kind of want to know what happens if she doesn't get that opening up the rail. She still wins, I think, but does she have to bully her way through? Does it get a little bit tighter than that? Because Be Your Best was kind of had to measure on her every step, and then Be Your Best goes 4 wide through the turn, and you see Juan Hernandez look over at the top of the stretch and go, oh shit. Yeah. Like, he sees Anisette moving and going. He's like, well, I've got some fighting for a second here. So
the question is, if she gets shut off and then has to wheel 4 wide around Be Your Best, can she still run down Be Your Best in the stretch if Be Your Best gets the jump? Honestly, like, dirt to me, much more of an advantage to go 4 wide off the turn. Right? Synthetic at Gulfstream, much more advantage to go 4 or 5 wide off the turn. At Del Mar, not as big of an advantage because that chute opens up and it makes it feel like there's even more room to the inside. And so you're not, like, you mentioned it perfectly. You called it perfectly, where when you go wide, if that horse starts coming on you can kind of pinch him down and intimidate him and put him in tight without fouling him. At Del Mar, you can't really do that because you have just this massive opening where that chute comes out, gives that horse even more room to be able to move through. And Anisette didn't need that extra room, but definitely had it if needed it. So I got through, made it look easy. She, to me, is going to be ultra tough in this division all year in California, and we'll see what she does moving forward. But she's a very, very, very talented filly. And I don't mind Rispoli on her. I know Rispoli getting some hate in the chat here, especially when facing the big boys, the Ortiz brothers, the East Coast jockeys, right? Look, he rides really well out there in California, and there is definitely a benefit that the Breeders' Cup is going to be at Santa Anita this year, at Del Mar next year for some of these California turf horses who have had trouble breaking through in the Breeders' Cup in the past. I think you may have a couple that get the job done this year.
Well, and I'm checking right now. I'm pretty sure Reese Bully he was aboard Smooth Like Straight when he almost won the Breeders' Cup Mile 2 years ago. He missed by half a length to Space Blues. Like, Reese Bully he's not Irad in that he's going to move a horse up several lengths on the spot like that, but I also don't think he's terrible. I mean, especially in a turf horse, like in a California turf horse. You know, you can say that he goes against the big boys, he melts, but you got to forget the one time Reese Bully left California, because that just was a disaster. He went over whatever he tried to do in Kentucky. He didn't try New York. That didn't work. When he's left to go to the Breeders' Cup at other spots, he's on California horses. So I would say don't be so mean about Reese Bully. He's still definitely a superb rider, especially in California. So
if he's riding a D'Amato turf horse in the Breeders' Cup, I will still respect that horse. Right. And that's the horses he's going to be riding in the Breeders' Cup, right? Is D'Amato turf horses on California turf. So I don't think he's the reason those horses lose.
One other thing we thought would be fun to do, Mike, is talk about the top 5 3-year-olds as we're heading into the Travers Stakes this weekend. And I think you can guess who at least 4 of the horses will be that Mike and I are each going to have on our list here. But let's go 1 through 5. No real shocker here with who we're going to have on top, because you've actually been on top of the Forte bandwagon for a very long time as a top 3-year-old. So, right on cue, Frank D'Angelo doesn't. Forte isn't that good. Overrated. Not a top 5 to me. We both have Forte number 1 though, right? Heading into the Travers.
No. You have Forte number 1 heading into the
I have
Travers.
Forte number 1. I will let you talk about why you do not have Forte number 1.
Give me Go Rocket Ride. I think Go Rocket Ride is the best 3-year-old in the country right now. Mandela does not ship across the country very often. He ships Go Rocket Ride to the Haskell, and Go Rocket Ride looked awesome in the Haskell. I think this would have been a serious Kentucky Derby contender had Go Rocket Ride ran in the Santa Anita Derby and then got it into the Kentucky Derby. Horse is consistently getting better as he is getting older. Again, the fact that we shipped out and then dominated the Haskell. And look, here's the thing. Mage got waxed by Go Rocket Ride in the Haskell. Mage never really got waxed by Forte, right? Mage lost to Forte twice, but I felt that Go Rocket Ride's Haskell was more impressive than Forte was in either of those last 2 races. And then the issue for me here is what's happened to Forte since. He looked great in the Jim Dandy, but that was a small field, not a huge, massive field, not a bunch of contention in there. And he didn't look great in the Belmont. We'll get to there in a second, because I think Forte and Arcangelo are both going to fall in our top 4. So we'll probably talk about both of those in the Belmont specifically. But to me, I think Go Rocket Ride's the best 3-year-old we've seen in the country. I think Go Rocket Ride has the best chance to have the best 3-year-old season as well, with what you're going to see from him out in California and then in the Breeders' Cup Classic, where I think he's got a huge shot in that race. And I think that being in California gives him an advantage as well. So I've got Go Rocket Ride as my number 1 3-year-old.
Listen, as far as talent goes, I think by the end of the year, I think you're going to definitely say, yeah, Go Rocket Ride is the top. You could easily say he's the top 3-year-old. I can't get off of Forte winning the Jim Dandy the way he did, winning the Florida Derby, the Fountain of Youth. He came off of over 2-month layoff, having missed the Kentucky Derby, almost wins the Belmont Stakes, beats every other Derby horse that was in the Belmont. I have him as number 1. I do have Go Rocket Ride number 2. I have no issue with that. I think a lot of people in the chat are agreeing with us as well. No issue here. What do you think about the decision for Mandela? It sounds like now he's leaning towards a Pacific Classic again instead of the Shared Belief Stakes as the final prep.
I like it. I mean, go big, right? I mean, there's not like a world beater older horses that are out there right now. You're probably going to get one of the Arabians in the Pacific Classic as well. I think it's Arabian Lion that's pointing there. Is that right?
Arabian Night is going to the Pacific Classic, yeah.
So Arabian Night probably going to be one of the shorter prices for Baffert. The fact that Arabian Night's going there makes me think Defunded is definitely more vulnerable than you would necessarily think. And, he hasn't looked wonderful recently as well. So I like the idea of taking on Olders, going the 1.25 miles, and then heading right into the Breeders' Cup Classic off it. And I wouldn't be shocked if Go Rocket Ride is your favorite in the Pacific Classic as a 3-year-old. So I think the placement is strong. Look, I have Forte number 2. I don't disagree with anything you said. I think you could also make an argument that Forte kind of got the short end of the stick, because you had the issue over the Kentucky Derby, and then you had a 2-month off stretch, and then he ran in the Belmont. But let's not forget, he beat Tapit Trice by yay much in the Belmont, right? And Tapatrice nowhere near either of our lists. So I still remember the fact that Tapatrice pushed him right there in the Belmont. Arcangelo, who I'm sure we'll get to in a second as well. Look, he got a dream trip up the rail. Like, are we really sure Arcangelo is that good? We still have to find out about that. So to me, I'll take Go Rocket Ride 1, Forte number 2. But again, I think you can interchange these two, but I think they are clearly 1 and 2.
Well, let's talk about that horse next. Arcangelo, I have him in third on my list. I think it's like a 3-3A situation here, but I'm going to go with Arcangelo for my third pick. 3 straight wins. They've all looked, better than the last, and kind of like his sire Arrogate coming around at the right time for the Travers. To win the Peter Pan off of a maiden win is that's something. Bishop's Bay was a very highly touted horse for Brad Cox going to the Peter Pan. Arcangelo had to fight back to get that win. Bishop's Bay kind of gave it up a little bit. You can kind of go back and forth there. But the Belmont Stakes, he got a better trip. He was more informed, but he looked really impressive that day. And he wins one leg of the Triple Crown. That's got to be something to put you at least in the top 5 going into the Travers. Do you have Arcangelo in third?
I don't. I have him in fourth, and I'm guessing my third place horse you have in fourth. I'm going to go with Mage number 3. Because look, I thought Mage ran well in the Travers, or I'm sorry, the Haskell, and we talked about where I have Go Rocket Ride at 1. So Mage being number 3 makes sense in that front. Wins the Kentucky Derby, right? So by the way, that's a Triple Crown jewel, but probably the harder Triple Crown jewel to win. I'm not completely sold on Arcangelo either. I had Arcangelo on Belmont Day. That was nice to cash, but the trip was perfect. And I'm not sure he wins without that perfect trip up the rail, because Forte was coming, Tapatrice was coming toward the end of that race. Arcangelo is starting to back up. To me, that felt more of a situational win. And National Treasure situationally won the Preakness. Blazing Seven situationally ran second in the Preakness. Neither of them are going to sniff my top 5 here. And so, I can't give Arcangelo that 3 spot when I do think the Belmont was a little bit of a situational win, and he wasn't facing the best version of Forte. Mage faced the best version of Forte twice. I thought ran well against him both times in the Florida Derby, off terrible trips in both of those races. Ran huge at the Kentucky Derby. I thought ran very well in the Haskell. So I've got Mage sitting at that number 3. And the fun part is 2, 3, and 4 are all running against each other in just 5 days in Saratoga. So we're going to get to actually answer this question in a lot of ways over the weekend.
Yeah, you're going to have all 3 Triple Crown race winners in the same Travers Stakes for the first time since 2017, I saw. My guess, by the way, without even looking it up, my guess was 2015 because it was American Pharoah. He was all 3 winners, and he ended up losing that year, by the way. So we'll see what happens. I will say, so yeah, Mage was right there. I went back and forth even up until we started the show. I was like, Mage, Arcangelo. I think Arcangelo's more likely to win the Travers. Mage is more likely to hit the board. Mage always shows up and gives that big effort. The fact that the only horse that was beating him earlier this year is the horse that I have ranked number 1 says something. I didn't like his Preakness effort, and that's I downgraded him for that one. The Haskell was good. Go Rocket Ride freaked that day, but you could go 2, 3, 4 with this horse, with Arcangelo, with Go Rocket Ride. Forte to me is number 1. This is where I think things get interesting, because we've had the same 4 horses in just different orders. Who's your 5th horse?
I went back and forth on a bunch here. I considered Saudi Crown. I considered going the Philly route. I considered going a turf horse here, because to me there's just not that many that you really want to get aggressive with. King of Steel over in Europe, I think deserves at least a little bit of a hat tip here. I don't even really like this pick. I ended up with Angel of Empire just because of body of work more than anything else. Okay. I'm not sure Angel of Empire. I will admit, I kind of said, okay, best 3-year-olds going long in my head on dirt versus best 3-year-olds, which I think probably would have changed this a little bit, because you could also bring up Arabian Lion, who's a phenomenal sprinter. I think General Jim could make the argument. Phenomenal sprinter there as well. I landed on Angel of Empire because in my head I was thinking 2-turn dirt older horse, or 3-year-old, right? And Angel of Empire has consistently run well. I think you have trip excuses in the Kentucky Derby where he just missed running second. That's why I landed here, although I'm not that confident. And again, if people want to say Scotland for Bill Mott, I think that horse totally fits. Saudi Crown for Brad Cox, I think that whole horse totally could be an argument. But to me, body of work, Angel of Empire is the most impressive.
Definitely an impressive body of work. You're right. Another horse that's very consistent, has the big Grade 1 win for the Arkansas Derby. Gotta love that he's earned almost $1.5 million this year, which I think, yeah, that's more than Forte. He's earned more than Go Rocket Ride. He's earned more than Archangelo. Only Mage has out-earned Angel of Empire so far this year. That's crazy. I have him on the also eligibles. He's gonna have to show more from me in the Travers. He needs like a top 2 finish for me to consider him higher. Arabian Lion was one that I really considered. I actually thought you were gonna go with Arabian Lion. You talked about he could stretch back out. It sounds like Baffert might want to stretch him out for his next start, but did win that Woody Stevens, which was super impressive. The Sir Barton effort was the best effort by far of any horse at Pimlico that whole weekend. So you got to appreciate that. And then the horse that he was supposed to face, or that was supposed to be in the Preakness and didn't, he ended up finishing a close second to in the Lexington. So a lot of good reasons to like Arabian Lion. Nick Feldman, damn you stole my pick. I thought for sure Program Trading was going to take everybody by surprise. He's a turf horse, yes. I know we're talking about 3-year-olds. It's been 3-year-old dirt routers. Program Trading, to me, if you watch that Saratoga Derby, man, that was such an impressive effort from him. He's 3 for 3 in his career. He's won at 3 different tracks. He beat a host of very talented horses in the Saratoga Derby. Chad Brown, possibly his best 3-year-old right now, which is hard to say. It feels like that changes and not for a good reason very often. But I have Program Trading here in 5th. I think that he has a chance to have a huge second half of the year, but I also understand, when it comes to 3-year-olds, we're talking dirt and we're usually talking 2 turns. So I can understand not wanting to put him on here, but I felt like he needed to get some honorable mention love at least.
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of these 3-year-olds. I think you could kind of say, there's a couple sprinters you could probably make a case for that could make the argument in the 3-year-old division. Like Program Trading, obviously, good choice here. I wouldn't knock that one. There's like I said, a couple European horses I think that you could make an argument for elite 3-year-olds as well. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Like Augustus Road, another horse in Europe who probably would be on this list if you just said most talented 3-year-old. So it depends how you kind of define the list. The top 4 for me, pretty easy. This 5th spot I thought was absolutely wide open.
Yeah, and Nick bringing up 2 fills. I think 2 fills, if he'd stayed in training, was going to end up being definitely the top 5. I mean, Aaron had him in 3rd for the longest time and 2nd because of how talented he was. He just needed other horses to get by. Michael Olsen says he'd have Cave Rock 1? What's going on?
We'll never know.
Cave Rock's ghost, boy. Yeah. That's still really sad about that one. Yeah, Forte is still number 1 for me, but yeah, a great, interesting discussion to be had.
Where do you put Dermis Lotagake?
17th. How about 17th. That?
All right.
For those who know, they know. There we go. Those are our top 5 3-year-olds right now. So that was like top 5 3-year-old. Now, as far as the Travers goes, they are drawing that Tuesday night, and we will have the betting buy-level for the Travers available at racenews.com later this week. So I got to ask you, too early to tell. We don't know the field. Who's your pick for the Travers?
I want to see how the pace is going to be, right? My immediate inclination is to say Forte, which would make sense because he's my number 2 horse. I will say this. My number 1 horse out of this weekend will still be Go Rocket Ride. There's nothing Forte can do to make me feel that he's not as good as Go Rocket Ride. Even if he freaks, I can't put him up there because, well, let me rephrase that. If he freaks better than Go Rocket Ride's Haskell, I will consider putting him up there. But until we see something like that, I like, to me, Go Rocket Ride seems like one of those guys who is just, or one of those horses. I'm sorry, Forte is one of those horses who just loves to win and kind of plays down to the competition in a lot of ways versus like just you're seeing the best version of this horse every single time, because we see him turn on that light when they turn for home and go and get whoever's in front of him, which is a wonderful trait for a horse to have. But you never see him just win by 8. And every now and then I wish he would just win by 8 and you'd see the full talent of Forte. But yeah, at this point, like for me, if it depends on how the pace plays out, because I'm a little interested in someone going gate to wire, because Mage, because Forte, because Angel of Empire, all these horses, Archangelo, are all going to want to come from off the pace. And so the question is, who's going to be in the leads? Is it going to be Scotland? Are we going to see someone else in there? So we'll see what the lineup projects as. But right now, like I would take Forte, but we'll see what the price is too. Like I don't want to take too short of a price on Forte, on Mage, or on Archangelo, because I think it's a competitive race and a race where you can take a shot.
Forte for sure will be the favorite in this spot. A couple questions for you about the Travers I want to ask you. First of all, Scotland to go gate to wire. How do you think that's going to be a pretty strong possibility from what we saw from the Curlin winner?
We'll see who else is in there. Saudi Crown, I don't believe is going to be in there. Like,
Nope.
there's no other projected early speed that I've heard. And we saw what Saudi Crown was able to do in the Jim Dandy when you're a lone projected speed. Scotland, like, again, these are horses that I think were right on the fringe of being in that top 5. And if they're that good and they get loose, that makes them exponentially more difficult. It's going to be interesting to see how close Mage sits. It's going to be interesting to see how close Forte sits and what the decision is from those jockeys. We saw Forte sit closer in the Jim Dandy. I would expect you're going to see him closer again here. Mage has the ability to be a pace presence, but has not really been a pace presence in any of his races since he broke his maiden. It'd be interesting to see what happens there. I mean, a lot of the love for Mage in the Fountain of Youth and the Florida Derby was because he could go gate to wire. Like, that was one of the reasons people loved Mage in those races, and Mage didn't break. And so you never saw that. So if we see that version of Mage again, I think that's a little bit interesting as well. But someone's got to press Scotland, because 2 turns at Saratoga, going gate to wire is a very dangerous thing, as randomized would tell you. Like, it's a good place to be at Saratoga, is on the lead when you're going 2 turns.
Yeah, I think Scotland projects to be the leader. National Treasure, you could see try and also go gate to wire. Reincarnate is not. I mean, he's just kind of a lumbering goofball up there. Another thing to be interesting: Tapit Trice. We've been saying for ages needs to wear blinkers. They put blinkers on him in his final work, and Jose Ortiz, who's going to be his rider for the Travers, was aboard. Said it seemed to focus him. Any love for Tapit Trice adding blinkers in the Travers?
I mean, wouldn't it just be so fitting if he won this race by like 2 lengths, just by open lengths? Just
I'm a little worried about it. Yeah.
Look, if you want, this is probably the race to bet Tapit Trice if you're a Tapit Trice fan. Like, the hate has probably gone too far now, because the talent is still there. The turn of foot is missing, but the distance is favorable for Tapit Trice here. Adding the blinker should be a favorable thing. We'll see how close the horse can sit. I don't mind the jockey change here. So we'll see. But if you're getting 15-1 when they walk into the gate, this is probably the right race to bet Tapit Trice. I won't be one of the people betting Tapit Trice, but it's probably the right race to do so.
I mean, I'm worried. When I saw that they added it, I was like, okay, we've been saying they need to add blinkers to this horse for a long time. It could be Tapit Trice time.
I mean, again, like, if you're getting 15-1, if you're getting 20-1 on Tapit Trice, I'm not going to tell you not to bet on him. I just probably won't be running to the window either.
If you're Javier Castellano, did you make the right choice going with Arcangelo over Mage? Because now you've got Castellano's going to choose Arcangelo. Luis Saez is taking Mage, which is how we open up the door on this horse.
I don't think he chose. From the sounds of it, Castellano was still waiting to make a choice, and Mage's group just said, all right, screw this. We're just getting someone before we lose Mage, or before we lose Castellano. We don't have anyone to put on Mage.
Interesting. Well, I mean, Saez was aboard Mage when he almost won the Florida Derby. Yeah, and that was the best effort we'd seen in a long time, or possibly the best effort other than the Kentucky Derby that we've seen out of that horse.
So, and Saez went to, what was it, Kings Barnes, I think, in the Derby? Or was that Jose ran Kings Barnes?
Saez went back to Tapit Trice. Jose was on Kings Barnes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure, yeah, I think is that Mage's connections weren't happy that Castellano wouldn't commit to one or the other, and so they said, screw it, we're going to go get a top jockey before we lose a chance at one. And they're the ones who made the move to take Saez, and then he was left with Arcangelo, which I thought was really interesting. I would have picked Mage. I wouldn't be shocked if Arcangelo is a very, very good horse. I just still need to see it again, because I thought everything went perfect for him in a race he was bred for. And that's why it's tough.
Jose Ortiz is going to ride Tapit Trice. He was on him in his morning work over the weekend. It's also something like Forte is going to keep the blinkers, which I thought were a good help for the Jim Dandy. Let's see. Arcangelo, Forte, Mage, Tapit Trice. Disarm is considered for the Travers. Scotland and Il Miracolo. So a couple of good magics, a couple of gun runners in there as well. So, and of course, violence in there.
Will be the favorite, by the way. I mean, kind of fun that like there are multiple violences that could have been the 3-year-old that could have made the top 5. Well, I guess there's really just one. I don't. Well, Ray's Kane can't really make it, but he's by violence too. But he was never in the top 5.
Yeah.
Probably.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is the best version of Travers we've had in what? 10, 15 years. I can't think of a field that was this strong in a while.
From top to bottom, this strong, no. I mean, I would say you'd have to go back to 2017 at least, right? The last time you had all 3 Triple Crown race winners in it. So easily the best, talent-wise, the deepest from that perspective. Yeah. We'll find out. Listen, a lot of time to go. Like I said, they're going to be drawing that on Tuesday, and we'll have all sorts of previews for you and analysis over at racingdudes.com, where, of course, you can also get previews for the upcoming races this week at Saratoga, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Early races already up. New rankings by division. You go check out Aaron Haltzman's latest top 5 by division. Also see how we rank the top 5 3-year-olds and the top 5 older horses as well. So there you go. You've got that to go consider over at racingdudes.com. Go check out the replays and analysis for the Alabama Stakes as well. See what I thought about randomized and the effort there from Wet Paint as well. And of course, while you're at racingdudes.com, go to the handicapping products page and click on Get Racing Dudes Premium. Check out what kind of picks you want. Maybe you want to see a little combo, premium picks, Somobombs, single day passes. It's all right there. How did you do over the weekend betting-wise and tournament-wise, Mike?
I did okay betting-wise. Did a couple pick 4s at Saratoga and Del Mar, so it wasn't a lost weekend. Tournament's a little frustrating, especially yesterday where I nailed a cold trifecta in race 1 at Woodbine for the cash tournament and then did not cash a ticket the rest of the day at Woodbine, so that wasn't fun. Did okay in the tournaments, got some breakage back, won 1 seat, so we'll take it, and we'll see if we can parlay it into more this weekend.
Boom, there you go. Kevin bringing up what everybody on the Racing Juice team is worried about. The undercard has 6 turf races and 1 dirt race. That's going to be a bitch to handicap 3 different times. The first time we passed through, the second time when they announced the changes, and then the third time when they decided to pull off the turf. 2 minutes to post for race 1.
I cannot remember a Saratoga season where I've done this, but I have been only advanced handicapping the dirt races. I don't even look at the turf races till the morning of because I have no clue if they're going to be on the turf. And I literally have my dad in Saratoga telling me whether or not it's raining or not every day, so I can have some idea of what it's going to be. But man, yeah. It's been an interesting season over there at Saratoga.
It's been a rough meet at Saratoga, but it's never rough when you're listening to the Magic Mike Show, guys. Make sure you come back here on Thursday at 5 Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. We'll be covering either Del Mar or Saratoga. Probably Del Mar or Saratoga. What am I doing? It's Travers weekend. We're going to Saratoga. So possibly for the last time this year. But we're going to go to Saratoga on Thursday's show. Tune in for that one. If you're going to Saratoga this weekend, let us know. Aaron will be there. Jared's going to be there. Dr. Miranda is going to be there. Vinny, of course, is going to be there. So let us know if you're. Are you going to Saratoga? Am I the only one that's not?
I'm going to Vegas, baby.
Oh, that's right. You're going to Vegas. All right. Well, I'm the only one who's staying home this weekend, so somebody come play with me while everybody else is out having fun. But yeah, make sure you let us know if you're going to be there. We'd love to hang out with you. They'd love to hang out with you, get a drink with you, obviously. I would if I could be there, but I'm not going to, so I can't. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. I'm at Curtis Kalleward. He is at Somobomb18, number 1, number 8. Corporate Overlords at Racing_Dudes. Anything else before we get out of here, Mr. Somich?
No, I'm just looking forward to this weekend. This was the last weekend we don't have football that counts for the rest of the year. So we get real football moving forward now, too. Sorry, the CFL. How about those Lions, Magic?
That was pretty bad. I knew I was like, I shouldn't even send it in because I feel like when I send in my CFL picks for dudes who bet daily, they don't do well. But I am +5.
But you killed it last week.
5 3/4 units or something like that. Yeah, I had a 6-pick streak for the CFL that got broken last night. So not happy about that, but thanks for bringing it up.
No problem. Happy to help.
There you go. Notre Dame and Navy. You got that coming up too.
Yeah, like I said, there's football that matters now for every single weekend through the rest of the year.
You got that going. Make sure you tune back into to racingnews.com every Thursday through Sunday and youtube.com/racingnews for dudes who bet daily at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Until next time, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck this week, everybody.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by racingdudes.com.